The historical perspective of Florida real estate license law. 1923, the Florida legislature passed the real estate license law, Chapter 475 and the statutes. In 1925, that's when FREC, the Real Estate Commission, was created, and they were granted authority to the commission to keep records, conduct investigations. They have the ability to grant, deny, suspend, or revoke licenses, and they're also known as the Commission or FREC. Now, the Division of Real Estate provides support services to the Commission and is under the DBPR. Statutes and rules important to real estate. FS20 is your organizational structure. It governs the executive branch of the government. 475 is the Real Estate Professional Practice Act. It has 4 parts. Part 1 pertains to real estate brokerage. Part 2 pertains to real estate appraisers. Part 3 and Part 4 are basically the same. They're the Commercial Real Estate Commission Lien Act. Part 3 is for sales and Part 4 is for leasing. So you need to make sure you know which one's which with that, because every once in a while they'll throw that question around and see if you can remember which one's 3 and which one's 4. The way I remember it is you have to buy before you lease. 455 is the Regulation of Occupations and Professions. It establishes the basic rules for professional licenses. It also requires a licensee to notify DBPR within 30 days of any conviction. FS 120 is your Administrative Procedures Act. It outlines the disciplinary process. And then Chapter 61J2 is the rules of the Florida Real Estate Commission. Sales associates are employed by and work under the direction and control of a real estate broker or an owner-developer. An owner-developer is an unlicensed entity that sells, exchanges, or leases its own property, such as a real estate development company. Sales staff must hold an active real estate license if they're paid a commission or compensated on a transactional basis. So let's discuss this a little bit more. Let's say it is an owner-developer of a subdivision. And they started building the subdivision and they hired someone to sit in the model homes and represent them selling the homes. If that person is paid an hourly or salary wage, they do not have to have a real estate license. If the owner-developer is paying them based on the homes they sell or a commission on the home that they sell, then they would require to have a real estate license. Application requirements. You must submit to the DBPR a license application and electronically submit fingerprints for a background investigation. New applicants pay an application fee plus an initial biennial license fee. Now that consists of unlicensed activity fee, recovery fund fee if applicable. There are fee waivers for low-income applicants, and there are also fee waivers for military personnel and spouses. Fees are waived for military veterans and their spouses who apply for licensure within 60 months after honorable discharge. A sales associate's qualifications for licensure: they must be 18 years or older, have a high school diploma or equivalent, possess a social security number, be honest and of good character, competent and qualified, and disclose convictions, plea of nolo contendere, or if under investigation. They also have to disclose names or aliases such as maiden names. They need to disclose if they've ever had any disciplinary action taken against any professional license in any state, or if they've been denied a real estate license in any state. Now, the reason why they're required to possess a social security number is so that child support can be validated, that people are up to date on their child support payments. The background check, okay, you need to attach full details of all cases if you've been convicted of a crime, found guilty, if you entered a plea of guilty or nolo contendere, which means no contest. You need to disclose information even if court action was withheld, adjudication, you were put on probation. And expungement. That is where the record of the criminal conviction is destroyed or sealed after time. Don't assume, verify. I just had a student in here today that it came back on her. Hers was supposed to be expunged and it wasn't. Showed up on her application, background check, and now she's having to submit the more information. Processing your application. DBPR or DRE has 30 days to check for errors and omissions. If they find something they want more information on, or if something's missing, you'll receive a notice of insufficiency. You must be informed of an approval or denial within 90 days. If denied, the applicant has 21 days to request a hearing. Non-resident applicants, proof of U.S. citizenship is not required. The applicant must possess a Social Security number. Remember, I told you that so that the department can verify that the applicant is up to date on their child support payments. Florida residency is not required. Now, non-resident licensees, they have to complete their post-licensing and continuing education required of all Florida licensees, regardless of the license status or where one lives. So, active real estate licensees and inactive real estate licensees and real estate licensees that live in another state, we all have to complete the same post-licensing and continuing education. Now, resident licensees who become non-residents must notify the Commission within 60 days of a change in residency. However, mailing address changes must be reported within 10 days. Mutual recognition and reciprocity. Mutual recognition. Florida has entered mutual recognition agreements with several states whereby each state recognizes the other state's education and experience. Okay. The person applying for mutual recognition must not be a resident of Florida, and they must have a real estate license in a mutually recognized state. They must apply for mutual recognition license through the DBPR and pass a state exam of 40 questions on the Florida real estate law and pass with a 75%. Reciprocity. Florida has no reciprocity agreements with any other states except with military service members. Reciprocity for U.S. service members, the mutual exchange of privileges. DBPR grants reciprocity to active duty and former active duty member of the armed forces and their spouses. They must hold a valid real estate license issued in another state. Regulations pertaining to the pre-licensing courses. A grade report will be issued by the school, and you must take that when testing for the state exam. They will not let you take your state exam if you do not have that grade report with you. And looking at it on your phone is not going to work. Make sure you take it with you. Now, a student can retake the end of course exam a maximum of 1 time. So you get 2 tries at it in the class. As far as the state's concerned, you can take your state exam as many times as you want in the 2-year period. Your educational requirements is that you complete course 1, which is what this is. It's 60 hours of instruction, and you get 3 hours for the end of course exam. You must pass your end of course exam with at least 70% on a 100 multiple choice question exam. Regulations pertaining to pre-licensing courses. Students may not miss more than 8 instructional hours. Makeup classes, if absences are due to illnesses, is allowed within 30 days. Makeup classes must be the classes that the student missed. A student may retake the end of course exam a maximum of 1 time. A certificate of completion is issued upon the successful completion of the end of course exam. Now, there are some education exemptions for folks that have either a 4-year degree in real estate or a Florida attorney. So, a 4-year degree in real estate, they're exempt from courses 1 and 2. That's your sales associate pre-licensing and your broker pre-licensing. They're still required to take the state exam, but they're also exempt from post-licensing education. However, every 2 years they must complete continuing education requirements like the rest of the agents. Now, Florida attorneys, they're exempt from Course 1, the pre-licensing for sales associates, but not the pre-licensing for brokers. State exams are required, and they're not exempt from post-licensing education. However, attorneys that are in good standing with the bar are exempt from continuing education, the 14 hours that we do every 2 years, because mainly our continuing education deals with laws that have changed in real estate. And Florida attorneys are going to have to do their own continuing education, so therefore they're exempt from ours. Time limits. The license application expires 2 years after it's received by DBPR. Applicants that do not pass the state license exam within 2 years of their course completion date must retake the course. Florida resident defined. This is for application and licensing purposes as determined by FREC rules, mainly when it's concerned with mutual recognition. The Commission defines a Florida resident as a person who's resided in Florida continuously for a period of 4 calendar months or more within the preceding year, regardless of whether the person resided in a recreation vehicle, hotel, rental unit, etc. License examination. The applicant schedules the examination appointment with the testing vendor. For us, that's Pearson VUE. You'll need to take 2 forms of ID. One's going to be a government-issued ID, such as driver's license, military ID, passport, needs to have a picture on it. The other ID is just going to have a signature on the back. And then don't forget, you have to have the grade report from class. The examination consists of 100 questions, multiple choice. You need 75 correct to pass at the state level. Now you can take your test in English or Spanish. However, if you want to take it in Spanish when you're scheduling your examination, you need to let them know then that you prefer it in Spanish. And you will be graded at the test site. When you finish taking your state exam, you're going to get a photo-bearing exam report. It will either say you passed or you failed. If you passed, you're going to be issued an initial inactive license, and you will need to complete a request for change of status form with employer information so that you can begin to practice real estate. All you need to do there is go to the broker that you've chosen to sign up with. You're going to fill out the paperwork, sign the independent contractor contract. They're going to notify DBPR that you're coming on board. And as soon as you show up on the DBPR website as employed under that broker, at that moment is when you can begin to practice real estate. Now, if you fail, they're going to give you the points scored in each content area. It's going to have information about retesting procedures, reviewing the exam, and requesting a hearing. Post-licensing education. All right, you're done with your state exam. You're out there selling real estate, making the big bucks, but you got to do some post-licensing education. Licensees must complete post-licensing course before the expiration of the initial license. That's a 45-hour sales associates course. There's no state exam, but there is an end of course exam. Failure to complete the course will cause the license to become null and void. Now, they've recently created a hardship extension, but that hardship extension has to be approved through the DBPR, and it has to be a very legitimate reason for them to extend it. And they extend it up to 6 months. Continuing education. Continuing education is 14 hours, and it's required every 2-year license period. 3 of the 14 hours must be core law, and 3 hours must be ethics and business practices. Now, you can earn 3 hours of core law per year, but you have to take the core law in different years, so it's not the same course. You can also earn 3 hours, but it's not considered core law by attending one of the legal agenda sessions of FREC. Broker requirements to become a broker. You need to complete the Sales Associates Post-Licensing course, complete the 72-hour FREC Course 2, have 24 months real estate experience during the past 5-year period. You're going to have to pass a state-administered license exam, and the post-licensing for brokers is a 60-hour course. The broker experience requirements is the 24 months active experience in the previous 5 years. It can be as a sales associate working for a broker, as a sales associate working for a government agency, or as a broker in another state or nation. Broker associates are individuals who hold a broker's license but chooses to register and work under the direction and management of another broker. There are 3 categories but only 2 licenses. Okay, there's only 2 licenses issued in real estate: sales associate and broker. But there's 3 categories. You can be a sales associate, you can be a broker, or broker associate, but broker associate is only a category, not a license. Registration and licensure, that's placing on record with the DBPR the name and address of each licensed broker and sales associate, name and business address of the sales associate's employer, active or inactive license status, and their involvement in the real estate entity. Prima facie evidence is evidence that's good and sufficient on its face to establish a fact. Unless refuted by evidence to the contrary, prima facie evidence will prove a case. A real estate license is prima facie evidence that the licensee holds a current and valid license. Compensation is anything of value paid or promised to be paid to an individual for performing any service of real estate is considered compensation. Real estate services. If you perform real estate services for compensation without a real estate license, that is a third-degree felony. This acronym will help you remember what the real estate services are, and the acronym is ABARCEL. Advertise real estate services, buy, appraise, and that's non-federal transactions, rent or provide rental information, sell, auction, lease, or exchange. If you do this for compensation, you must have a real estate license. There are some individuals who are exempt from a real estate license. Owners of property may buy, sell, exchange, or lease their own property. That would include corporations, partnerships, trusts, and joint ventures. However, a partner in a real estate partnership, provided the partner only receives a normal pro rata share of the profits. What this is saying, it's kind of jumbled up in my opinion, but what it's saying is, say 2 people, neither one of them have a real estate license, and they decide to purchase a home, fix it up, flip it, and split the profits. If they are 50-50 partners in the endeavor, they can only share the profits 50-50. If they share the profits differently because somebody did more work than the other on getting the property sold, that's considered practicing without a license. The person was compensated for real estate services. So watch out for this question on a state exam or your end of course exam. There are some careers that are exempt. Attorneys at law and CPAs. State certified and licensed appraisers when conducting appraisals. Court or other legally appointed individuals are exempt. Attorneys in fact, someone that has a power of attorney for signing real estate documents. There are miscellaneous exemptions. These are exempt from a real estate license as well. Individuals who rent lots in a mobile home park or travel park. Persons who sell cemetery lots. Registered security dealers selling business enterprises. Hotel and motel clerks who rent transient lodging. And then tenants can be paid a finder's fee, but it's a maximum of $50. That is the only unlicensed person who can be paid a fee for the referral of real estate, and that's tenants of an apartment complex who refer somebody to the apartment that actually rents one of the apartments. The apartment manager can pay them $50 for a finder's fee.